you to the Whiteley Forum meeting. So the time is now 6 o'clock. It's Monday, the 14th of November, 2022.
Oh.
For those listening and watching, my name is Councillor Vivian Atchwell, and I'm the chair of the North Whiteley Forum. This meeting is being held virtually, and in accordance with the Council's rules for virtual meetings, councillors are reminded that although this meeting is being held remotely, they regard as being present in the meeting of the Council, and they should observe the normal rules of behaviour. Please can I ask everyone present in this virtual meeting that your microphones remain muted and your camera is turned off whilst you are not addressing the meeting, as this will reduce background noise and avoid any unintentional disturbances. Thank you very much. Don't mind just switching the cameras off, please. Thank you. This meeting is being audio recorded, live streamed, and will be available on the Council's YouTube channel. Subtitles are available, and advice on how to turn this on is set out on our website. If you are joining us online, please turn your camera and microphone off until you have an item to speak to. And everyone, please ensure the mobile phones are on silent. Please can I ask the Democratic Services Matthew to undertake a roll call of members of the committee to confirm who's present this evening. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, and good evening, members. I'll just do a roll call of members. If you can just confirm that you can hear me okay and that you're present, that'd be much appreciated. I'll start with the Winchester City councillors. Councillor Atchwell, obviously, I can see and hear fine. Councillor Therese Evans.
Sorry, yes, I am here. Two things. If this meeting goes on much beyond 7:30, I shall have to leave. And also, I can't see the chairman on my screen, but Councillor Atchwell, do you think you could talk a bit louder, please?
Yes, no problem. I will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've had apologies from Councillor McLean. Councillor Miller.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson.
Present.
And Councillor Small.
Present.
Thank you. Moving on to the two Hampshire County councillors. Councillor Lumby.
Yeah, I'm still hanging from my branch.
Thank you. And Councillor Woodward.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Moving on to Fareham Borough Council. Councillor. Sorry, I've got Councillor Bull, but it's not Councillor Bull, is it? Sorry. Is it Councillor Burton?
It is. Hello, thank you. Good evening to you all.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Eastleigh Borough Council, we've had apologies from Councillor Pretty. So I'll move on to Whiteley Town Council, Councillor Evans.
Here.
Thank you. Botley Parish Council, Councillor Mercer.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And Kilridge Parish Council, Councillor Bodger.
Present.
Thank you, members. Chair, just to also say that we'll be joined this evening by Mr. Gray for the session on public participation. Mr. Gray, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. And then running through the agenda, we'll be joined by Amanda Gray from Sovereign Health Partnership. Good evening, Amanda. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Neil MacArthur from Winchester City Council.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi. From Hampshire County Council, Emily Payne and Mike Griffin Thorne.
Yeah, good evening.
Hi.
Hi there, thank you. Jeff Davis from Tetra Tech.
Here, Matthew.
Thank you, Jeff. I also saw we've been joined by Ray Alborough from Hampshire County Council.
Yes, I'm present.
Hi Ray, thank you. And in the room, members with us this evening is Julie Pinnock and Hilary Oliver from Winchester City Council. I think that completes the roll call, Chair. Apologies if I've missed anyone, but back over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can I just confirm we've had apologies from Councillor Burton and Councillor
Pretty and Councillor McLean. Yeah.
And Councillor McLean.
Yeah.
Members, do we have item number 3? Do we have any members who have to declare any interests? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 4, Chairman's announcements. I don't have any announcements this evening. We are next on to public participation. Mr. Gray, I believe you might have a question. You have 3 minutes to ask a question. Would you like to go ahead, please?
3 minutes, okay.
That's
Yeah,
great.
about January this year, I raised concerns about the path leading to Cornerstone School, linking from Dumas Drive to Bluebell Way. There's a couple of points I've mentioned. The path is uneven, loose stones on it. It's very narrow. It's overhung with trees. It's single file at one point. The width is circa 800 mils. So people with buggies, pushchairs, wheelchairs, scooters, skateboards, bicycles, whatever, struggle to get down there. This is a concern throughout the whole year, more so in the winter. There's no lighting down this path. It's pitch black. The kids are scared to walk down there at night after school. And during periods of rain, there's large puddles appear, which are moving the stones or washing them away, I should say. Dog poo's an issue as well. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I've reached out to Councillor Sean Woodward in my first instance, but it falls just out of his area. He then forwarded me on to Councillor Hugh Lumby. I met with him in July. I raised my concerns there. He assured me that it's easy to get the trees and shrubbery cut back. 5 months later, it's not that easy because it's not done. And I chase monthly, at the beginning of every month, I chase Hugh and I copy Sean in on it because I'm not going to let this lie down. It needs to be addressed. The people want us to walk to school, cycle to school, scoot to school, any means they can other than transport, car transport, which is fine. Because for me, personally, to drive to the school is a 5.2 mile round trip, but to walk is 700 meters. This is crazy. This path needs to be properly adopted, properly tarmacked, lighting. It needs to be inviting, not discouraging to the children to walk down. In this weather, it's horrible. And if someone was to come a cropper, because there's lots of hidey holes around there, let it be noted that it's been marked and mentioned here, that it kind of, I told you so about this. So that's my first part. I don't know if I've got another minute left, have I? But regarding the school itself, it's a great facility. It's on a building site though. The roads are unadopted. There's no signs indicating there's a school along Bluebell Way. The cars are going too fast. There's no zigzag markers on the roads saying school keep clear. I mean, they've just recently put zigzag lines where the school used to be, which is a waste of money. There's no metal fencing outside the school gate, which helps deter enthusiastic children from leaving the school. There's no curb as such. Cars quite happily do U-turns and mount the pavement to go the opposite direction. The list kind of goes on. I think I've got 9 or 10 points here, but you can see the biggest concerns are the safety elements here. You want us all to walk to school with our children, but you're not giving us a safe manner in which to do so, and it's on a building site.
Okay.
This is crazy.
Right, thank you very much. Really appreciate you answering those questions this evening.
Okay.
I just wondered if Ray from Hampshire County Council would be able to answer any questions at all on what's been just raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Gray, there was a lot of things you mentioned there, and to be fair, as quickly as I can write, I didn't get them all down. So I'm going to ask a favour of you, if you would contact me.
Yep.
With an email, putting all of this information, all your questions, in a single email, and I will try and get you an answer and the action that you're seeking.
Okay.
But I need to explain a little bit first of all, if I may. This historic public footpath is outside of the development area of North Whiteley. It borders it, but it's actually outside. And I think when the outline planning application was considered a few years ago now, and I wasn't involved at that stage, but so I'm just assuming this to some point, but I think it's true that there was no works agreed to be carried out to that public footpath. It has been mentioned in the past at the forum, and forgive me if it was yourself who did it, but and at the time the county council agreed a sum of money to actually put the gravel on the surface, because at the time it was just a normal countryside footpath where it was mud. We had the same issues with overgrown shrubs. Clearly they've grown back again, and I can't promise anything, but I can certainly raise it with the people concerned. As far as the on-site roads are concerned, yes, they are unadopted, but they are completed, I'll say more or less, but in terms of the whole of Bluebell Way is open to the public to use. And as far as the carriageway is concerned and the surfacing is concerned, it's there. So there is no restriction on people driving to the school, and I appreciate we are encouraging people to walk, etc. Coming back to the footpath, people are not meant to cycle along it because it is just a public footpath. It's only legally used by pedestrians. But clearly, if somebody wants to push a bicycle down there, that's fine. I'm not sure about children on scooters, to be honest with you. But I take the point that we do encourage people to go to school in means other than the car. As for the signage, this again has been raised in the past, and I did approach the developer, but I don't remember if they responded, or if they did, what their response was to provide warning signs about the presence of the school. I know at the time they weren't on the drawings prepared for the agreement for the appropriate section of Bluebell Way, but that's not yet been completed, so they can be added and the developer can provide them. I haven't been to Whiteley for a long time to know whether or not they actually have been provided, but I guess from what you've said, they aren't there yet. And as for zigzag arrangements, they need a traffic regulation order to be enforceable, and the county council will do one at some stage in the future once the road is adopted. And I think the low curbs that you mentioned, that's predominantly to do with the design that was agreed back at the outline planning application stage. And we do appreciate there are issues with people parking on the wide footway come cycleways, and you will notice on the north side of the school that the developers have put up barriers to prevent parking on the wide footway as a temporary measure until a more permanent solution is agreed. I'm sorry if that didn't cover everything, but as I said, if you can actually write to me, my address is ray.alborough@hants.gov.uk.
If you could put that in the chat, and I can just take it from there, please. Thank you.
I'll do that now.
Thank you for addressing those points. Vivian, am I allowed to chat back?
We have quite a full agenda. So
okay, all right, no worries then. I'll just.
I don't mind.
That's fine. I'll just speak with Ray via email.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
As you'll see from the agenda, actually, we've received a number of questions from Whiteley Town Council this evening, and we will get to this to the relevant part of the agenda where we will be answering those questions. And sorry, just bear with me a minute. Councillor Pearson, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, Chair.
I would like to pick up on this comment about the width of this footpath, whether it's within the development area and therefore Hampshire is saying it's not their responsibility or it's the developer to do it. As my understanding is that any footpath should be a minimum of 1.5 meters wide. So how on earth have we got a footpath, whether it's built by the developer or by the county council, which is only 0.8 meter of wide? And I'd pick up, particularly related to this, not so much the point about the cycles, which is important, but the fact that prams are too wide for this provided footpath. Quite frankly, it's just not good enough. Now, who is responsible for this, and who do we give a more than a nudge in order to make sure this footpath is built to minimum county standards, not someone else's design standards? So there's a question back. Perhaps Ray, you could answer that, or perhaps it's one for the developer to answer. I don't know.
I think Councillor Pearson, Madam Chairman, if I may,
Yeah.
as I understand it, this public footpath is just outside the development area.
Yeah. Yes, I heard you say that, Ray.
Yeah.
So who actually built it?
Well, nobody built it. I think it's a long-standing historic public footpath. So it is the Countryside Service of Hampshire County Council's responsibility to maintain it.
Right.
Maybe that they got to send a contractor down there and cut the vegetation back to get the minimum width that you're suggesting. But the minimum width is, in fact, there isn't necessarily a minimum width, because it all depends on the definitive description of the public footpath that the county council hold, and it could very well vary. But historically, they should be 1.8 meters wide, and obviously that's greater than the 1.5 meters that you mentioned. Nowadays, of course, when we build footways adjacent to roads, we try to get them to be a minimum of 2 meters wide. But sometimes the description isn't that specific, and they will refer to the route being from A to B between two hedgerows.
Yeah, yeah.
And so obviously with hedgerows growing out, sometimes it's not possible to get the desired minimum. But obviously with some maintenance, and I think this is a call for maintenance to be carried out. And when Mr. Gray emails me, I will certainly be contacting my colleagues in the Countryside Service to get them to do some work on the public footpath.
Yeah, well, and certainly if you could answer that question, Ray, in due course, as to whose responsibility is to make this a usable footpath, whether it's in the countryside or within the development area. You're saying it's not. I can accept that. The countryside, certainly it is inadequate, indeed dangerous for the users. And that's the point that I think Mr. Gray is making, and I would fully support him in that.
Yeah, understood. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you for your question, Frank.
Welcome.
Now I'd like to go on to item number 5, minutes of the previous meeting held on the 18th of January 2022. Can I just ask members of the committee, are they happy for me to approve and sign the minutes?
Agreed.
Councillor Woodward, do you have your hand up?
I do, Chairman, and I feel a bit like a cracked record, but it's there in the minutes. I'm still, and a number of residents speak to me as well, very dissatisfied that yours seems to be the only council in the country that doesn't want to have public attending its meetings in person, or indeed meeting in person. And I remain disappointed, and I will continue to say so until you open up your meetings in a democratic way to have the members of the public and councillors in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you. I have actually taken this up with the leader, and we are looking to hopefully have the next meeting in public. We're just trying to find the correct venue.
I think we suggested, and it was accepted, Cornerstone School would be an obvious one, sitting in the development north of Whiteley.
We just need to work out the microphone system, which is being looked at the moment. No, I'm not leaving it there, don't worry. It was a cabinet decision, which I'm hoping to have changed. So I have taken your point on board. Are you happy for me to sign the minutes now?
No. Councillor Mercer, I've got my hand up.
Yes, Councillor Mercer.
I strongly support Councillor Woodward. You made reference to the next meeting. What about the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that? We need to have them open as normal, as near normal meetings as possible.
Yeah, I promise I'm looking into that.
When will you come to a conclusion on that?
Within the next couple of months.
So by the end of January, you will have made a decision on that.
Yes.
So can we have it minuted that you will make a decision by 31st of January?
Okay, let's put it in the minutes.
Thank you.
So we're now going on to item number 6, which is an update from Whiteley Surgery from Sovereign Health Partnership. And I welcome Amanda Gray, Managing Director of Sovereign Health Partnership. Amanda, thank you for attending this evening. Would you like to say a few words, please?
Yes, thank you. Chair, could I just check how long I've got? I have got a couple of slides if that's useful, but I don't want to take up more than my time slot.
Just take as long as you want.
Okay, are you happy for me to share my screen?
Yes.
So I thought it'd be useful just to give a little update via some slides. So I've just got a short update around building capacity, who's in the team, what the GPs do, booking appointments, some things you can do online, listening to patients, and how we're keeping in patients informed. So hopefully you find that useful. In terms of building capacity, we've got 3 priorities. So one is about space. So there is some additional space in the existing building, which is currently not NHS space, and we are in discussions with the landlord and the Integrated Care Board about how that can become space for our patients. Secondly is car parking. So we understand that our landlord is preparing another application to extend the car park, which is a problem for current access, let alone expanding what we do. And they have worked through the ecological concerns, etc., that were identified beforehand. We anticipate that it'll be in the new year. But as I say, that sits with our landlord. And I'll talk to you a bit about workforce. The slide shows in the top right our current catchment area, and the square at the top there is the area for North Whiteley. So we are seeing residents obviously already registering with us as houses are populated. Just to give you a bit of a feel for who's in the team, so there are a number of permanent GPs based at Whiteley and some GP registrars who are trainee GPs who we have on rotation. And there's a whole host of other professionals. We have been working through our PCN and through merging the practices to ensure that we've got a good, strong workforce for the future. And so patients may see other health professionals other than GPs. I thought it'd be useful just to share quickly what the GPs do. So they do see patients within their clinics, whether face-to-face or telephone, or whether they're nursing home ward rounds or residential homes or going out on home visits. And those are the areas in italics on these slides. But there are also a great deal of other activities that GPs need to do that are for the patients, but not in contact with the patients in clinics as such. and that includes mentoring and supporting and developing care plans with the wider workforce. The reason we have to have the wider workforce is that nationally there is a shortage of GPs, and therefore we must develop the skills of other people in order to provide medical care in the long term. Patients tell us that waiting on the telephone is one of the key issues we have, which we appreciate, and we have been working hard to reduce this down. We've tried to operate a service where only new medical problems and new symptoms are dealt with via telephone, and other things that we can proactively contact patients around. We invite patients for their appointments rather than patients having to contact us. And we also, there are options to book things like blood tests and certain nurse appointments online. We have been asked for digital access to be restored for appointment requests. This does remain under review as part of our improvement plans, following feedback at the early part of the year, January to April, that the e-consult system that we were running wasn't working for patients and causing delays in care. There are lots of things that patients can do online, and this just shows a couple of items. One on the left there is the surgery practice website, that patients can do lots of things online if they follow those green blocks and follow through to find the thing they need. Patients can also set up their own, the NHS app, which is a national service which links in with the GP practice. So there's lots of things that patients can do online, even though they can't make an appointment request. Some or all of you may be aware that we held an engagement event in May 2022, and the top 6 things that patients asked us to have a look at are on this slide. We are progressing along our improvement plans in each of these key areas. Some are moving faster than others, and that is just the nature of how easy it is to solve the particular issue. So waiting times on phones, for example, is reliant on recruitment, training and retention in a large part around our workforce. We keep our patients informed by a monthly newsletter, which patients can sign up to receive an email. I can share these slides so that you can have the links. We have a regular, we also place the newsletter on our website, and there's various news items that go out on the website, and we have copies in practice. So I've taken the slides down, so hopefully that gives a little bit of an update. Happy to take some questions if there's time, or be guided by you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very useful. And yeah, if you could send a copy of the slides, we can add that to the minutes.
Of course.
Thank you. Councillor Small, I think you have a question.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Amanda. That was very useful. As you know, we spoke at length a couple of weeks ago about what your plans were for the practice. It was just something that came up in between that meeting and now. There's a few people in North Whiteley who, when they've come to register with the practice, I think it's to do with the new postcodes possibly, but on the initial application it's rejected and they're told that they can't register with your practice. Are you aware of this? Because I think when they phoned the practice, you've been more than willing to sign them up, but the discussion online was how they couldn't sign up with the practice, and you know how these things tend to spiral. It was a question that came up. I just thought I'd check. So are you actually aware of that issue? Again, I think it's to do with the new postcodes. That would be my guess, rather than your practice doing something wrong. I'm just wondering if you were aware of this issue, and if there's anything on your website to just guide people to phone if they have issues.
Thank you. I personally haven't been made aware of that, but that's not to say that the team that look after registrations isn't aware, but I can certainly take that away and find out a bit more. If you have got the postcodes that you think have been affected, that would be helpful in that investigation, but I'm very happy to take it away and have a look into it.
Sure, I can get you some of those. That's no problem. Again, I just thought I'd mention it because I said I'd bring it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mercer.
That was a very excellent presentation and I am impressed. Would you like to make a bid for Botley surgery, please? That's the best way
I
can
have my
summarise
hands
it.
somewhat full.
Well, I am sure, but it's the best way I can summarise the difference there. I wish we were as good as you were getting as good as you people in Whiteley are getting. So thank you.
Thank you for your feedback.
Any further questions, members? Thank you, Amanda, for attending this evening, and look forward to your slides. And thank you for all the work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Many thanks for inviting me. Are you happy if I leave now?
Yep.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 7, we have an update on the North Whiteley governance review from Winchester City Council. I'm going to hand over now to Officer Neil MacArthur, Internal Head of Legal Services at the Council. Neil.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that introduction. For those participants that I haven't met before, I'm Neil MacArthur. I'm the Interim Head of Legal Services at Winchester City Council, and I'm leading this work for the Council, although I'm very grateful for the assistance of colleagues, including Hilary, who I see is in the meeting, who's really doing most of the heavy lifting from the City Council's perspective, and also to colleagues on the town and parish councils for their help through the advisory group. Chair, I have a short slide deck which I can share if you're happy for me to do so. That.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, then just bear with me for one moment whilst I.
Councillor Podger, I'll ask you to put your camera off, please. And mute as well, please. Councillor Podger, you can put your camera on mute, please.
So I'm hoping that the slide deck is now showing, Chair.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I only have a few slides to show. The first one is really just a reminder to colleagues about the consultation process, which commenced in the summer and we concluded it on the 9th of October. The consultation was around 4 proposed options. The formation of a new council, moving the whole development area into Whiteley Town Council, moving the whole area into the Curdridge parish, or leaving things unchanged, and feedback was given in a variety of different ways. The results of the consultation are shown on this next slide. The vast majority of respondents choosing option 2, which was to move all the development area into Whiteley Town Council. So that being the case, we also given consideration to other comments that respondents gave, and they've been broadly grouped into those sections that you can see there. I won't read them out. They're broadly consistent with the overall response. So that then left sort of 2 questions to be resolved. One is around the whole question of boundaries. The statutory guidance that the Principal Council has to follow explains that you really ought to try and find boundaries that are easily identifiable. This was the proposed boundaries, but we have been doing some additional work on the relatively few properties who are affected by this to ascertain those people's views. And alongside that, we've consulted with the town and parish councils, and as far as they're concerned, there's no need to alter councillor numbers. So where that leaves us in terms of next steps is that we are planning to take a paper to the Licensing and Regulation Committee on the 7th of December. We're currently looking at the feasibility of taking a reorganisation order to council following the conclusion of the review. at the earliest possible opportunity, because the statutory guidance says that the arrangements come into effect on the 1st of April after the order has been made. We also need to be mindful of the need to try and get arrangements in place if we can, to ensure that elections can take place on the new boundaries. If it's not possible, and it may not be, so we just need to just have a degree of caution. We'll do our absolute best, but if that's not possible, then the new governance arrangements would take effect on the April 1st the following year. So that is the end of the slide deck. Chair, in your hands.
Thank you very much, Neil. Are there any questions, members? Councillor Bodger.
Right. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to you, Councillor Atchwell, for chairing the advisory group, and particularly to Hilary Oliver and Ellen for their work before Neil really got involved, and to Neil. One of the things that has to go into the order is the amount of money that will be transferred from Curdridge to Whiteley to cover the money we've got in from current residents of North Whiteley. That sum is known precisely and can be written into the order. We can give that to the licensing committee on the 7th of December. And it isn't simply the question of Whiteley's elections in May 2023, but also we have to set precepts, and that's very difficult to do if you don't know how many houses there are going to be. It'll be a problem for Whiteley, but the number of the uncertainty in the number of houses in North Whiteley is relatively small, proportionate to Whiteley's total tax base, but it would be quite large compared with Curdridge's tax base. It would make it very hard for us to set a sensible precept. So getting the go-ahead on the 7th of December is really very important to us. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Evans.
Thank you. I have a few questions, if I may. How many, perhaps I've been told this and I haven't retained it, but eventually, how many residents will there be for this new parish council? Shall I say all of them? And what would prevent the council being formed on the 1st of April next year, as opposed to the year after? Following on from my colleague Eric, I couldn't. Is some of Curdridge then going into this new council?
No, at the moment the properties are all in Curdridge. Or sorry, a lot of the properties are in Curdridge. They are moving into Whiteley, therefore they will come off our tax base. Yeah. And the other two questions, Councillor Atchwell.
Neil, do you have answers, please?
I do have the answers. The problem I have is the exact numbers are written in a report that I will need to find on the same computer I'm using to dial into this. I'm a little bit reticent to start fishing around for that. I do have those numbers, unless Hilary's got a copy to hand and could assist me with that. Whilst we look for the numbers, though, the question of the commencement date is a procedural one. So the terms of reference set out a process for conducting the review, and the review was originally to have 4 stages. And the review concludes at the point the Licensing and Regulation Committee makes a final recommendation, and then that has to be done within 12 months of the start. So that's a date that we must hit. The order then takes effect. The recommendations take effect through the making of a reorganisation order. That is a matter for full council. And so the things that will get in the way are really, can we get all of the administrative and steps necessary, issues around boundary, the consultations we need to do, the financial predictions, etc. Can we get it all lined up in a way that not only gets to licensing and regulation committee within the 12 months, but also gets the order to council soon enough for those arrangements to take effect. Now, soon enough for financial purposes is perhaps less of a challenge than potentially electoral concerns, because the electoral arrangements were working to a earlier sort of cut-off date. But that we're working really as hard as we possibly can to get it done, because we understand the practical difficulties it creates, you know, for all concerned. So we're doing everything we possibly can to get it done in time. That hopefully answers the second of your questions.
Yeah.
The one about population, I'm in Hillary's hands on, or I will have to let you know after the meeting.
Hillary can help.
So the figures that we, sorry, Shay, the figures we're quoting in, or Neil's quoting in his report, is the residents of North Whiteley that are going to join in Whiteley, not the whole of Whiteley. So at the moment, we estimating 2,600 residents currently live in the North Whiteley area, and that's expected to raise to 8,200.
Yeah, so my concern is that, you know, people will like a parish councillor to take their local concerns too. So presumably then, if the order is not in place by next year, those new residents will carry on being attributed to Curdridge Parish Council. Is that right?
Well, if it's okay, Chair, shall I deal with that?
Yes, please.
So, I mean, I think the answer is, if we can't get it all bundled up in a way that is very neat and tidy, one of the things that we would need to consider alongside the financial arrangements, which probably could come into effect in April, would be the need for interim arrangements if we can't put the arrangements in place. So, for example, there might be, you know, one of the things the guidance talks about is interim arrangements whereby the people in the parish who are affected are represented by councillors who sit on the principal council for a period of time until the next set of elections could be. So that's one of the complexities that we're keen to avoid if we possibly can, because it just makes it more complicated, although it's not insurmountable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Chair. Occurs to me when Neil, when you're looking at the dates, are you taking into account that by the middle of next year, this area will be part of a new parliamentary constituency? And if indeed it would impact on what you're doing, in fact, the whole of Whiteley will be in, I believe, what is suggested to be Hamble Valley, I think it's going to be called. So it won't be in Fareham either. I'm talking about parliamentary boundaries now. Will this in any way impact on what you're trying to do for Whiteley Town Council? And indeed Curdridge as well.
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, it won't affect that. It's around the electoral arrangements in parish and in the town council that we're principally focused on. One of the statutory consultees is the Boundary Commission, and we'll certainly make sure that we've covered off those angles, but to the best of my knowledge, that's not one of the things that's creating complexity at the moment.
Yeah, I just thought I'd be wise if we were reminded about the proximity of the two creations.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Okay, thank you very much, Neil. Any more questions? Okay, thank you, Neil, for that.
Thank you. Am I okay to leave the meeting now, Chair? Or do you need me to assist on anything else?
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now go on to item number 8. That's an update on the bus services from Hampshire County Council. I'm going to hand over to Emily Payne and Mike Griffin-Thorne from Hampshire County Council for a verbal update, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, so pleased to announce that on the 8th of January, the extension to the 28 and 28A will commence. This will now go up to Botley Station at peak times, 1 journey in the morning and 2 journeys in the afternoon. at this time, it's not going to be serving rerouting around towards Parkgate and the community hospital around there, but it's in place to start on the 8th of January. Temporary stops will go in we're hoping between Christmas and when the route commences. We're just waiting on delivery for those now. There was a 6-week lead delivery date for them, but yeah, that's good news hopefully for everybody in the area.
That's great, thank you very much. Councillor Woodridge, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. Obviously, it is good news that something will commence on the 8th of January, but of course, it's not such good news if it's not going anywhere other than Botley, because I thought there was to be a much wider spread on this route. I know a number of residents have talked about getting to the Loxheath Centre, and I understand that's probably not really on the cards at the moment, but certainly getting to Parkgate and Swanwick Station. And I noticed a couple of temporary bus stops have actually been chained up to lampposts in Parkgate, and I did assume that was in preparation for this new route start or extended route starting. So what's gone wrong?
Yeah, so the route is going to be serving through Parkgate. It is going to serve Station Road, so it will come around the area there and head off into Fareham. In order for it to accommodate the Loxheath shopping centre, it would then require another bus to be put into the system, and part of this is still phase 1 that we're looking at the moment. We are, phase 2 is going to be slightly delayed, so phase 1 at the moment is not to incorporate that. We could look at other options for the community hospital, because I think there is a need to link that up with a bus service down towards the QA, so we can look at other options for there. There isn't specific funding for that, but we can certainly look at perhaps taxi shares or any other community options that may be available.
Chairman, what about Parkgate though? I thought that was supposed to be part of the initial phase, Parkgate and going on towards Fareham, and it looks like after waiting all these years, the 8th of January we'll just see a few hundred yards along to Botley Station and that's it.
So it is going to serve Botley Station. Again, this is phase 1, so it's the delayed phase 1. So it's it is building that route up slowly. The station, the rail station at Parkgate, will be served as part of this, or Swanwick railway station will be served as part of this. But in terms of going down to Loxheath, that's not on the cards right now.
Yeah, Chairman, I said I accepted the Loxheath bit, but what I'm having some difficulty with is why isn't this route at the beginning doing the Parkgate end as well?
Where in Parkgate is it that you're referring to, Councillor?
Well, when you come along Botley Road, you can, the residents of north of Whiteley can go. Obviously, they can come out and turn right and go to Botley, and come out and turn left and go through Burridge, Swanwick and Parkgate. And obviously Parkgate's got a little shopping centre as well.
Yeah, so there is the link.
Swanwick railway station.
Yeah, so we'll serve Swanwick railway station and then continue up to turn into Whiteley and serve around the Sweet Hills estate there before going around to Whiteley Tesco's and up that way.
So when will we see the frequencies, etc., improved, which were all to be part of this? Presumably not on the 8th of January.
Yeah, so it's going to become an hourly service. So it will be I believe it was 2 hours before, so it's now going to become an hourly service on the 8th of January, incorporating all of those areas, and then the progression thereafter. So serving Botley rail station seemed to be the favourable option in this first phase, because we can sort of target the commuters, and then if we need to look at expanding it to go further, so Botley or Hedge End, then we can look at that in the later phases. It's Stantec will be procuring this route ultimately, and the local authority, Hampshire County Council, will then support that. So it will depend on what funding is available towards the later phases.
Okay, sorry to hog this a bit, Chairman, but the County Council is dropping most of its bus funding in any event due to other very significant budgetary pressures. So is Mike saying that this will run for a bit, paid for by the developers, and then it will cease unless it's become profitable in that time?
So I think the idea is for the route to start small and expand and then become commercially viable for First Bus in the local area. There is we are subsidising that route partially, so that will remain at this time. That certainly wasn't built into the savings that were put forward this last month.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Can I just ask a question before I let Councillor Mercer ask? How long are you expecting this first phase to last before you might go into phase 2?
That's unsure at the moment. I don't know, Jeff Davies, if you want to add anything in on this. There was some talks around the phase 2 and what the timetable looked like. I think that may need to be adjusted slightly. I don't know if we can bring Jeff in on this at all.
Jeff, can you listen?
Hello, Mike. Good evening,
Hi, Jeff.
everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, I mean, phase 2, we're basically looking at the design of that now, because to bring forward a tender for those services. Some of the sort of indicative costs that we've seen from this bus.
Sorry, Jeff, you couldn't just bring your mic up a little bit closer, could you?
Sorry, can you hear me better now?
Thank you, yeah.
So I lost my track there. So yes, we're designing the phase 2 bus service at the moment, and Mike mentioned Stantec, who support us in that endeavour, so that we can bring forward the tender for that service. Sort of at the moment, just sort of playing tunes with it. We sort of put out the tender, and we need to sort of sit down and discuss that with Hampshire, work out the best way forward. Some of the costs that we've seen, suggestive costs put forward by First, who would tender us, very high, and we're trying to sort of make sure we get to a solution that we think is going to provide the best service for the money available. Initially, I think phase 2 was meant to come in at about 800 occupations, which is not very far from where we actually are now. So there will be some way in the future. I think it'd be best to run the phase 1 for a while and see what the uptake is, and it'll give us a better view of the future bus service.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Mercer, you have a question.
Thank you. Yes, I'm actually concerned about a different bus service, the X9 and X9A. This is the vendor, the people who run it have decided to make it a 2-hourly service, and it's affecting several villages. Primarily, it's a problem of getting to Sponmore College, so it's affecting mainly young people. On a Monday evening, students are having to wait an hour for the bus, which is not good this time of year. But what is concerning is that the county is proposing a possible merger with the E1 and E2, Eastleigh to Winchester. And we would like to see more clarity on that issue, if we could, please. I know it doesn't include much, it only includes Kirdridge, who's part, and ourselves, but it does in this forum, but it does involve Bishop's Waltham, Colden Common, and Hedge End as well. So it's quite a large number of children, because its primary purpose has always been servicing pupils from Swanmore College, not cottage, sorry. Thank you.
I don't know, Mike, if you're able to assist at all.
Yeah, Chair, I'm happy to answer on that. I mean, it's not fully appropriate, I don't feel, for this particular meeting. So I'm more than happy to have a conversation with Councillor Mercer and whomever else needs to attend outside of this meeting. I will touch base on it, though, as you've asked the question. We are aware of driver shortages, and that's affecting all of the operators, large and small. You know, they're all seeing the same, and we are unfortunately seeing repeated services cut and reduced for the same reason. That said, in September of this year, Exelibus approached us to ask for additional funding for the X9 and X10. Unfortunately, that's not available, and therefore we couldn't offer that. As a result, they've reduced the service down. Our funding remains the same for that service. And we are looking to re-tender that service, as you indicate there, including the E1, E2. That is just a possibility. So there's no guarantee that that will happen. We will need to route that, to plan that, and see whether or not that's a viable option. It's quite possible that would not go ahead. But yes, what you've heard there is true. We would look to see if that is a viable option for us. It is high on our priority list, and in the coming months we will be tendering for a new service. Whether that includes Exelibus in the planning or not, we don't know, and that will go through a tender process, and the winner will be announced obviously once we've got those details back. But as I say, if you do want a separate conversation, Councillor Mercer, I'm more than happy to meet with you outside of this meeting.
Thank you. That was part of my objective in interjecting here, because I wanted to get to you directly and explain the problem. So thank you very much indeed. I'll contact you. I presume your email is whitegryffithorn@hants.co.uk.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's the usual one.
Yeah, yes. It's nice when you get something so regular. So thank you very much indeed.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. We have one more question, I believe, from Councillor Mike Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The Town Council is working closely with Hampshire County Council the question of buses. And I just want to say it's got to be high on the priority list. We maintain our request that the bus service must include a stop at the community hospital and also Lock's Heath to allow access by bus to QA Hospital. I know you're looking into this, Mike. I think it is a high priority because there are many residents in North Whiteley without their own vehicles to travel, and they can get to the surgery if they can't get to the community hospital and to the and to QA. It's obviously of great concern to them. The only way is obviously to pay for a taxi. So I think if you can, I know that Hampshire and we've been pressing this, but I do think this is a very, very high priority. Frankly, if you could get best look when this is likely to happen.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Evans. Yes, so we have got a stop that's nearer to the community hospital now. So I think we've measured it. Walking distance would be 0.5 of a mile walking. It's not ideal, but it's it's certainly closer than stops previous. In terms of a connection to the QA, it's difficult when we haven't got that funding available. We can't offer extra, so we will look at other options, and we can certainly look at community options that are there. There's also the NHS transport services that are available for people who are attending medical appointments, so they can use the patient transport services. But we will look to see what other options are available to us, and whether or not we could look at putting on a taxi share scheme for users that may need to access that. That again is separate to sort of the whole tendering process for the bus, and that's a conversation that we can have with Jeff and colleagues to see what sort of funding they may have available to offer that sort of service. And again, the longevity of that would be how users access that. If they do regularly access that service, perfect, it sort of starts to then pay for itself. If all of a sudden it's not being accessed as much as we would like or at all, that's when we would look to start making that reduction and removing that service.
Thank you. And maybe Emily, we can arrange to get a meeting about this pretty quick.
Yeah, not a problem at all. I'll contact you and arrange that.
Okay, thank you.
I've got one more question, if that's okay.
Yes.
How are you going to advertise the service is going to start on the 8th of January to members of the public?
Sure. So initially, First Bus had asked if the developers could assist with that, perhaps a leaflet drop to the residents. I don't know whether or not it's still going to be a viable option, but when we met at the last meeting, we discussed options of publicising it across all of the community networks, so social medias. First Bus will do their part, so they will put all of their marketing team in to get information out there, and try and increase that usage, and of course word of mouth. Once we start getting the word out there that this is now going live, hopefully that will be good for the residents and they'll be happy to see it, and that will spread quite quickly and get users accessing that service. I think there are still some talks about how exactly that's going to be distributed to residents, but it's certainly going to be going into the travel plan that Amanda Morris sets up along with colleague Sarah Lees.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So are there any further questions at all?
Yeah, I have one, Chair, just to
Okay.
let you know that we've had
Can't
discussions.
hear you very well then, Mike.
Sorry,
Very well.
sorry, Chair, I didn't catch that.
Can't hear you very well.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Slightly.
Okay. Well, my sound should be the same. I haven't altered it. I think we've already had some discussions with Emily. We will be using our marketing people and maybe delivering leaflets to the residents in North Whiteley. That's something obviously we'll discuss, but I can assure you we will be making sure that it's well advertised.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Emily and Mike.
Thank you. Are you happy if Emily and I leave this meeting now, Chair?
Yes, of course. Thank you very
Thanks
much.
very much. Thank you. Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Right. Agenda item number 9, we now have an update from the developer and implementation officer. As in previous meetings, I'm going to hand over to Jeff of Tetra Tech to give us an update about the development. Over to you, Jeff. I think you really need to just move your mic closer to your mouth if you can, because we're really hard to hear you sometimes.
I think that's why I put these headphones on in the
shout.
first place. Is that better? Could you hear me okay?
That's better, thank you.
So Matthew's just putting up my little presentation, which just needs to wind up to the top. I think, Matthew, slide number 1. So just a quick update for tonight's meeting. Next slide, please, Matthew. Just a brief overview of what I'm talking about this evening as normal. So I don't know if there's an update for the roadworks to the south tonight, but I'm only really talking about the on site. Bluebell Way, just a brief update. As you know, the road opened last year, and as we just discussed, the bus service is due to commence early in the new year. One new bit of news is that we're currently we have marketed the local centre, the southern local centre. We've had some very good interest in that, and we've entered into negotiations with potential buyer of that site, which is looking quite good. I'm not able to yet to say who that is, but they are a nationally recognised name. Let you know more in due course. Issues, the programme, etc., for delivery of local centre, but it will have to go through a design and then a planning stage and then development. One thing to note is that we have made sure that during the development of that local centre, the parking that we're currently using there to support the school kept available, so it won't be closed. The issues we have down there. Next slide, please, Matthew. Just quick pictures taken from the recent drone flyover. That's looking at Bluebell Way with the Western Access Junction off in the distance and the local centre area just down to left, and you can see the floods that we've set out to try and deal with some of the parking issues. I know there are other parking issues that have been raised. Discuss that later. Next slide, please, Matthew. Brief view, just sort of hovering over the top of the Cornerstone Primary School down at in the centre there. That picture, actually, if you, it's hard to see, I suppose, but it does show one or two of the issues that have been raised doing with parking. Or we've got, you can see some cars up on the pavement. We are raising this basically on a weekly basis in our site manager meetings, and also with us we have a separate sort of health and safety inspections. So we're trying to do what we can to eliminate this. It has to be said though that some of the parking is not necessarily under our control. There are one or two instances where there are residents actually parking up on pavements. So you know, hold on, all of us. We're doing the maximum we can to try and control this, and I've recognised the issues raised earlier by Mr. Gray. I'm going to take those away, particularly to do with the signs, and talk to two issues. The road has been built with all signage that's been required of us under during the design and technical approval process. But so we are putting up signs now. There would be sort of a temporary nature, but we need to discuss what else should be done to improve matters where there's an issue of safety. Next slide, please, Matthew. This relates to the footpath 9. The section that was discussed earlier is sort of off to the left of that red line on that plan. It's the section that's actually off the development. We're developing the section marked in red and unmarked in green. Slightly embarrassed in that I'd hoped to have delivered the section in red, you know, this summer just gone by. Reported last time that we'd had some issues. The developer's making, it was a clash between the design that planning permission for a sort of follow-on design for the adjacent development, and that led to a problem which we had to, the only solution was we had to sort of amend the design of our cycleway, sort of upset the process. So we've redesigned it, we've completed that design, we've gained the technical approval of that design. Unfortunately, the change, although it's very subtle, actually changed the red line boundary on the planning permission, which means that we have to sort of actually start again on our planning permission for that cycleway. So that planning is going in. This process has been pulled together. We have to update various surveys that are connected to it. They all have to be adjusted ever so slightly. That'll get put back in. That in turn tendency to stop us from completing our Section 278 legal agreement, although that's all sort of, you know, the drafts are all agreed and in place, but we can't actually sign it off. Last time I think I reported that I'd hoped to build this phase 1 sooner. Long stop was spring next year. This time, basically, it is spring next year. We're just not going to, by the time we get through a planning process and so on, spring before to start that construction. Currently working on the second phase of the cycleway as well. That also has to go through a planning process. But again, that should be delivered. The aim would be to deliver that next summer. So we have the full connecting all across there over to where the secondary school will be in the future. Next slide, please, Matthew. Brief update on the phase 2, the off-site Whiteley Way works. We should have let a contract now. We had intended to let our contract for that to start. We've had some delays linked to, there's a fairly major culvert that has to be basically demolished and replaced between roundabout 2 and roundabout 1. We've just had some problems and just trying to get full sort of approvals from Southern Water and the legal ability to be able to work on the culvert. We've struggled to get recently. It's about £1 million worth of work, so we can't just sort of charge on without it. But we're just writing the letter actually to let the works to our contractor so we can start the planning process for traffic management, etc. All the permits we need, with a view to getting going now. I think it's likely to be next year. Actually make a physical start by the time we run lead-in processes to get going there. That'll lead us to a point towards us being finished in the summer of the year after. Next slide, please, Matthew. Brief overview of what we call phase 3, which are the Whiteley Way and Curbridge Way running through the centre of the site. As you will know from before, access is complete. I was looking up, asking questions earlier on about the Botley Road cycleway. I know the streetlight completion was an issue, and the report I received this morning is that's likely to be finished in February next year. We are on target to fully complete those roads, the roads in blue on the plan. Should all be finished by the end of this year. And our target, we have a target of Solar LEP to open this to through traffic summer next year at the end of June. Next slide, please, Matthew. Just a few drone shots looking at the road. I've just been discussing the phase 3. This is looking down at the northern section. History of working. That's the roundabout where Curbridge Way diverges from Whiteley. Next slide, please. View looking over towards the construction of Whiteley Way that Vistry are undertaking. So as you can see, going around the corner there. Next slide, please. That's a view looking to the north along the same road. Sorry, I've actually mislabeled that. That's actually Whiteley Way. Next slide, please, Matthew. It's a view looking again further back to the north, which I've labelled correctly. Curbridge Way on the left, Whiteley Way right, just as you can see. Next slide, please, Matthew. You looking down on Bridge 2, which is now complete. Next slide, please. Again, looking down to the south and over the top of Chase, Taylor Wimpey development on out to in the distance. Next slide, please, Matthew. Updates of the status on housing delivery. So we've now got detailed planning permission for roughly 70% of the original total, 2,500 odd houses. Developers have started just over 1,500 of those, completed 765 houses, and we're now standing at an occupation level of 781. Slide, please, Matthew. Very quick overview on some of the landscaping works. I realized when I submitted this to Matthew that I was waiting for an update from my colleagues in the north. I think I'll add that in, submit it to circulation. But so just about completed allotment 1 now, and I'm starting the process of handing that over. We've completed Leap 2 and Leap 3, so sort of nearing a position where they can be handed over. This winter we were working on various sort of open space areas. You won't be able to read it on that plan at this scale, but there's 1, 2, 7, 8 and 15 worked on this winter, and also including those sections of highway that we can get to and sort of tidy up, particularly near Stone School, for instance.
Sorry, Jeff, you just froze at the end there. Is that?
Sorry, I've come to the end of my presentation. I don't know if you want to should have used the video now, Matthew. If you want to fly through.
Just a minute video to show.
So it starts in the north and generally works its way down to the south, overlaying industry developments, turning to the right and looking at Kerbridge Way area. Down into the section of road there.
The speaker is inaudible.
I do apologise. I don't know why the problem keeps occurring. Can you hear me okay? I'll hold the microphone next to me. Just flying over bridge 2. Moving down Whiteley Way towards Woodlands Chase, just on the left of us now. Back up to the top of Whiteley Way again. The section of Whiteley Way being constructed by Vistry at the moment, again due to be finished by Christmas. A view of that from the south looking north. Developments along Kerbridge Way, I think. It's the main junction between Whiteley and Kerbridge Way. Leapt up to Bluebell Way, moving along towards the centre of the site. Form and development just underneath us there. Completed Vistry developments. And coming up towards Cornerstone School on the left and the Crest development. 27. And down towards where Persimmon have started their work, towards the south of the site. Right. Panning over to the east and back towards the Taylor Wimpey development. Chase. Finishing up looking down at Whiteley Way over towards Whiteley and Tesco's and etc. in the distance. View of the Persimmon development.
Thank you, Jeff. I believe we have Councillor Small has a question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Apologies if you covered it. Your sound was breaking up, Jeff, so I don't know if you covered this or not, but just for clarity, we've talked before about people needing to walk their children along the Botley Road from Cornerstones up to the new Whiteley Meadows area. Obviously, that's still going on, and we've had a number of queries about that. Could you just clarify when people are going to be able to access Cornerstones from Whiteley Meadows, either walking or cycling? I know you said about the road opening. I've got a date for that, but are they going to be able to access that, like I said, either walking or by cycling through the back way rather than along the Botley Road?
We're aware of the problem. It's certainly been raised various times by Hillary. Our initial issue is that it's in the middle of a construction site. So, you know, we have, once we sort of complete the road, Curbridge Way Road, it's immediately going to be put into use by developers working all along it. So we have a long stop date, as I mentioned, to open the road to through traffic next summer. We'll certainly seek to do whatever we can to sort of enable another access before that. But I have to state it, that is, you know, that is probably the date to aim for, which is, I know probably not what everyone wants to hear, but it's quite difficult to do anything else at the moment until we can sort of make it safe to do so. Because we can't really let people wander through the middle of the construction site until it's safe to do so.
I do understand that. Thank you. When you say summer on your programme, when exactly do you class summer? Are we talking June or August?
Well, we have a specific date. 30th of June next year is the date written into our agreement with the Solar LEP for the road to be, you know, finished and open to through traffic. And that's both roads. That's Whiteley Way and Curbridge Way. The Solar LEP, they see the opening of infrastructure that's been contributed to by public money that should be open to the public, and those are the dates we're working to.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. We have a question from Councillor Woodward.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Chairman. Like others, I couldn't hear some of the presentation, but my specific questions are around roads. Whiteley Way, Curbridge Way and connections, obviously at both ends, one by Tesco, one out onto the Botley Road. I do recall at one of these meetings a year or maybe even 2 years ago that we were talking about all of those being open by Christmas this year. So I just wonder what has gone wrong in that. That may have got covered and I didn't actually hear it, but I just wondered how that had gone wrong. I know that the LEP obviously has sort of got a backstop date now, which is June, which, you know, I just hope that doesn't get pushed any further, but I just wondered what went wrong. And then the second thing, Chairman, and it's probably not something Jeff will be able to answer, but of course we do still have other ongoing roadworks in Whiteley. I'm thinking of Junction 9 and I'm thinking of the Parkway roundabout and then the dual carriageway to follow on down to Tesco's. And I don't know whether we do have anybody here that can perhaps comment on the slippage of that through now to next March and how realistic and reasonable that expectation is. Thank you, Chairman.
Jeff, are you able to answer those questions, please?
I can answer the questions relating to the phase 3 roads. Yes, we did suffer some delays, and we basically agreed essentially an extension of time with the Solar LEP to agree the dates that we're now working to. Originally, we were hoping when we started works on sections that we would have it finished by the end of this year. We had some difficulty, particularly around the structures, that meant that we couldn't achieve that. So, but just in terms of being open to traffic, we actually will be pretty close to actually have finished all the works, as I stated in the presentation. We're on track to finish the works, but getting them open to traffic is a sort of further step. So we approached Solar LEP to agree an extension of time on that because we thought we would make it basically at the time.
Thank you, Jeff. And Ray, are you able to answer the questions regarding Junction 9?
I will certainly try, Madam Chairman. Thank you. Councillor Woodward, I've had an update from my colleague Patrick Bingham, who's in charge of the scheme. He tells me that by early December, the traffic signals at the Parkway junction will be operational, The road works section of Whiteley Way will be clear of traffic management in early December, and after the embargo for Christmas, there'll be approximately 4 weeks of minor finalising works to be carried out in the new year.
So just to be clear, Chairman, because obviously I'm trying to make notes on that very important matter while Ray is speaking. So basically we're saying then by Christmas, so let's stretch things just a little bit. So by Christmas, Parkway roundabout traffic signals will be functioning and all paraphernalia would have been cleared away. Is that correct? And the whole job finished, or everybody piling?
That is correct. I think sorry, Councillor, for interrupting. Yes,
is that job done, or is there still stuff at Junction 9 going to be played around with for the next few months?
Well, no, there's going to be approximately 1 month's work of finishing off small jobs around the scheme. I wasn't given the specific details of what they are or where they are, so I can't specifically confirm whether Junction 9 is or is not affected. But you're right, by Christmas, the road will be clear of traffic management. In other words, all the cones will be gone and the road will be opened. And the traffic signals at the Parkway Junction will indeed be operational.
Okay, so just if I may clarify and press Ray a little further, Chairman, if that's all right. When you say roads open, I travel around a road that's open on Rookery Avenue to the Parkway roundabout every day, and I just think, thank goodness I'm not driving a juggernaut through there, because I wouldn't make it. You know, very narrow lanes, so this means all lanes open. So you get up to the top of Whiteley Way, there'll be 4 lanes sitting there nicely, and all the lanes around Parkway roundabout and Rookery Avenue will all be open, full width. Everyone can travel safely.
That is my understanding, but I wasn't given all of those specific roads. I'm not trying to avoid the question, Councillor Woodward, it's just I don't want to mislead you.
Okay, it's a really important matter. This has dragged on for years longer than it should have done, and maybe Patrick is meant to come back to me anyway on a regular basis, perhaps give him a little prod, and he could just confirm all of that this week. I'm sure everybody would be most interested. Thank you, Chairman.
I certainly will give him the prod that you've asked for, and specific reference to Rookery Avenue, if I may.
Rookery Avenue, Parkway roundabout, Whiteley Way, please.
Yes, indeed. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think really it would be very helpful if we could all have a written response to those questions, if you can. Because it's as Councillor Woodward mentioned, it has been going on for quite some time. I think initially we were told end of November, and it just keeps stretching out. So I think
Noted, yes. Perhaps I'll get Patrick Bingham to email Councillor Woodward and perhaps copy Hilary in and for the notes for this meeting.
that'd be good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff. I don't think anybody else has any further questions. We now carry on to Hilary Oliver, our implementation officer. We had a few questions from Whiteley Town Council.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I thought I would clear some of the questions that Whiteley Town Council raised that haven't been answered, and then I might ask 2 of my colleagues to help with 2 of the answers. So the first question that hasn't been answered, there are 90 local people interested in allotment. Can the delivery of these be given more priority? Allotments will help build community in the absence of other community infrastructure. As has been mentioned tonight, allotment 1 is practically finished. It's just got to have a notice board up, and then the City Council needs to inspect it prior to a transfer being arranged. Allotment 2 is actually combined with the sports pitches. So at the moment, it's anticipated that they will commence this year and be available for Q3, Q4 next year. Allotment 3 is for 21 allotments, and that should have commenced this month or the end of last month. and that's expected to be available for the spring 2023. The final allotments are at the far end to be delivered with the sports pitches in the northern area, and that's not due until 3,200 dwellings, because all that area has to be developed before we can and the roads built before we can get to that area. But we will be chasing for a planning application on that so that we can see how it develops with that big parcel. So that's the allotments. Checking what else. There was a question on a commitment to an opening date for the secondary school is requested. I did contact Mr. Shepherd and he has confirmed that the position is the same as at the last forum, that the secondary school is proposed to be available for September 2027, subject to build out rates, which don't appear to be a problem at the moment. The sports facilities at the new school will be available for use by the community in the evenings and weekends. These facilities were negotiated to support the new development, but will also be available for the existing community once built. Yeah, the shops, as Jeff has mentioned, he mentioned the southern area retail centre. The marketing exercise has been done, which was the only requirement of the 106. The delivery wasn't actually specified in there, the dates, but as Jeff said, they're pursuing that. The negotiations, I think, are further along on the northern one, and that's definitely a pre-application stage, and we're expecting an application reasonably shortly on that one. And the other question was about mailboxes. I have contacted Royal Mail and I'm awaiting a response from them. Seems quite a difficult area to get them to commit to putting in mailboxes. It's all very dependent on how much the nearest one is used, but as soon as I get an answer that, I will update Whiteley Town Council. There was one question left over that I'd like Ray to address, if that's possible, which was about street lighting. If Ray's still there. Completion, completion of the cycleway path to Whiteley Station is progressing, but the street lighting is only partially operational. When can residents expect to see the street lighting functioning along the route? Right, Jeff, have you got that one? Right, sorry.
Well, apologies, Chairman. I couldn't get my camera and a mic on quickly enough. I have spoken to my colleagues. We are expecting them to be completed. I'm just going to check on the date. So that the developer's in negotiation with my colleagues and to secure the road space booking to complete the street lighting, and it is expected to be by the end of this year. So that's clearly, I'm presuming that's this calendar year rather than the financial year. That's as far as the Botley Road cycleway is concerned. That, as we know, goes up the Botley Road and then goes off towards Botley Railway Station.
And there was also a question, will the streetlights be adopted by Hampshire County Council? It's also been questioned whether development streetlights will be switched off at midnight, as happens throughout much of the county.
Well, again, that's a matter, as far as I'm concerned, all of the developments are the subject of applications for road adoption agreements. There's a long way to go yet to secure the agreements and the technical approvals, but the developers can start work on their own land before they get the technical approval, and indeed before the agreement. They always do this and they always know that it is at their own risk. But I haven't seen a scheme yet that does not have street lighting columns proposed within it. So all the streets should be lit, and they will be adopted once the agreement is entered into and the agreement's terms are fully met by the developers.
Lovely. The only other question on street lighting was, when can residents expect the street lights in Grayling Crescent to be operational? I did raise this with the developer and they should be working, so it's with them to resolve any issues with that. So
that is correct.
Yeah. The other question I'd ask Julie Pinnock to answer references services provided by Winchester City Council.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Julie Pinnock, Service Lead for Built Environment at Winchester City Council. This question from the parish is saying, could the City Council confirm the services it will be providing as the development grows, other than street signs and emptying domestic bins, e.g. roadside bins, dog bins, grass cutting? And I think this is the main point here. Residents are concerned about the management charges and the uncertainty of the additional costs they're likely to have to meet. Now, as you'd expect, I can't give you a definitive answer particularly, but there is good national guidance on, the services that the county provide, what we provide at the district level, and what parish councils provide. Now, I don't need to rehearse that here. You all know things like education, transport, social care, libraries, waste management, trade standards of county matters. For the City Council, as is noted, it's rubbish collection, recycling, council tax collections, housing, and obviously we're the local planning authority. I think the thing is sometimes there's overlap and there's layers, because what it does talk about here is parishes, communities and town councils can in some instances manage allotments, public plots, bus shelters, community centres, play areas, play equipment and grants to help local organisations. So I think what that shows is there's sort of a bit of a hierarchy, Chair, in terms of the kind of the structured approach. More generally, I think the point here is, and as I alluded to at the beginning, it's about how some of those responsibilities may be passed over to a management company. What I'd say is, having had a good look at the Section 106 legal agreement today, there are many provisions in there for assets that are going to be provided either on site or through a contribution, and there are arrangements in those for how they'll be transferred. And I think particularly the only reference I could find to the management body in the 106 was in part 3, where it talks about the management and maintenance of public open space areas, Chair, and that was very specific. So I can't give a more detailed answer than that. I'd be happy to talk about specific areas, perhaps after this meeting, but that's the general response, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Just to sum up then, I just wanted to touch on the play areas, because I know that's been a concern to some of the residents. Play area 3 is in operation in the north of the site. Play area 2 we had hoped would be in use. The actual play area is complete, and we were building, developers were building the path, which we hoped would be able to be used this week. Unfortunately, due to the heavy rain, they've had some drainage issues. There's a lot of standing water and a lot of water running off from the adjacent development site. That's got to be sorted out, which they're trying to do really quickly, because we're keen to get this play area open. But that's why that one, unfortunately, we haven't been able to say it's open today. Play area 1, we were hoping to start work in February, but the actual equipment is not going to be available from the supplier. But we're hoping that will start in March and then be available for the summer. In terms of the 2 public open space areas with the paths, public open space 2 is being used and the paths are complete. The paths are complete in POS 1. It's just having its stop-proof fencing installed at the moment and a double check of deadwood for safety reasons, and then that should be open to the public. So we're nearly there with that one as well. If there's any questions about the report, I'm quite happy to take them.
Anyone have any questions regarding what's just been said or the report? Fine. Thank you, Chair. I did have one question. I don't know who's responsible. The new cycleway that's been built along Whiteley Way, it's got quite a lot of leaves on. Who's responsible for clearing the leaves? I know it's not on the schedule at the moment. But City Council or Hampshire County Council, Ray, I think might have an answer.
If I can ask, whilst those works have not actually formally adopted by the County Council, the developer is responsible for their maintenance.
Right.
That's the official answer. However, street cleaning is a matter for the City Council. So if it becomes a safety issue, then either the City Council will serve notice on the developer to carry out the work, or they may do it themselves.
Thank you. Can I request you we have that pass? Because someone fell down last week and broke the shoulder.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, Chair. We'll take that away, Chair, and raise it with the developer and move that forward.
Thank you very much. Okay then, thank you very much for the reports. And Jeff, thank you for your reports as well. Just like to ask members, does anybody have any future agenda items I'd like to hear at the next meeting, which is being held in February? Any suggestions at all?